One. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to Be Your Own Hero. I'm a stage 4 prostate bone and lung cancer patient slash survivor. Been dealing with cancer since uh, early 2021 and doing very well here in Texas. And we are experiencing some absolutely incredible weather. The weather is beautiful, and I hope that the weather is beautiful wherever you are. And if it's not, make sure that you take advantage of whatever weather that you're experiencing because, each and every day that we are allowed to open up our eyes to a new day, it is a gift and it should be treasured and utilized and make the absolute most of it. So, what I want to do, I am so excited. This is a great pleasure for me. This is part two of my interview with now the Francis family, Shaun and Julie. And I interviewed Shaun last week in last week's episode, and now I have both of them because we're going to get both perspectives because Shaun went through a lot of personal difficulties and experiences and comas and all sorts of medical situations. And we have Julie on the other side, and she's going to be able to give her perspective from her point of view. So I'd like to introduce a phenomenal family, a phenomenal couple, and their name is Shaun and Julie Francis. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, and we are going to get into an incredible conversation.
Oh, okay. I'm Julie. I'm Shaun's wife. We've been married for what, 13 years? 13 years, seven of which were absolutely chaotic. But we just moved down to Florida from Atlanta, Georgia, and are basically starting a whole life down here. So we're happy to be here today.
Absolutely. And I am Shaun Francis. Uh, I'm the lead content provider for our family. That was my gift was to provide all this comedy of errors and comedy of trauma and everything related to that. So, but I'm blessed because I am married to the best human being I've ever met, and that's that woman sitting right here next to me. If you watch the first episode, you'll hear in much more detail why. But she gave me a second chance in my drinking when I didn't deserve it, and I work every day, so she doesn't regret it. Most days she doesn't. Some days she does, but I think that's called marriage. And she was my voice in my brain trauma when I couldn't be. And as you know, Mark, I always say, and she does too, God is good and we are blessed.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. How my first question to both of you, and more to Julie, how did your bond become so incredibly strong? I mean, it's, 13 years is a long time, yes, but in the scope of marriage, it's not that long. So how did you develop that kind of incredible closeness to Shaun?
Um, Gosh, I think we've always had um, a really strong relationship, and we always Shaun's a very good communicator, and he made me a very good communicator. And we spent a lot of time before he got sick just talking about things in general in life, what we wanted, what we didn't want, that kind of thing. And we were just close. I mean, he was my best friend before we got married. So there was more than just,
We were friends for 6 months before we went on a date.
yeah, we were friends before we even dated. And it was just a connection, I guess. I mean, it's just we've always been connected on a different level where he knows I know what he wants and he knows what I want. And we have discussed some of it, but when you get into a situation like we were in and somebody can't communicate with you because they're intubated, and you can look at them and say, "Oh, I know what he wants," without him saying a word. I don't know where that comes from. I think it's just I don't know. It's just a gift, I guess, that we have with
Pure
each other. It's a
connection.
pure connection that we had, and we've always had it with each other.
Yeah.
Where it's like when he's hurting, I'm hurting, and we laugh because we say in the middle of the night, if one of us wakes up, the other one's up too. It's not like one of us is up and looks at the other one, they're sleeping. We're both up. Like it's just it happened last night like 4 or 5 times. I think it's just when you love somebody that much and
Yeah.
unconditionally, yeah, it's just there. You
But
can
don't you
read
think
it.
some of it too, though, is that when when we became friends, we were both going through some major changes
Yeah.
and challenges in life,
Yeah,
and our friendship grew as we were supporting each other through
yeah.
our individual trials
Struggles,
at
yeah,
that
or
time, right?
struggles. Yeah,
And then we wound up finding solace in our friendship,
yeah,
which then progressed from there.
yeah. You're
And
you're right. I was
I
going
think
to
that
say that
foundation
too.
just made it deep and
There
deep,
was,
at least
yeah,
my view on it.
there was a deep foundation of trust in each other right from the beginning. And, we were talking about this the other day, just basically putting blind faith into somebody that they always have your best interests at heart and they want what's best for you. We say that we have blind faith in God. And if you have blind faith in your relationship, then you're going to have a pretty good relationship as long as you feel that other person always has your back and has your best interest at heart.
And that means
And
the other person has to do that, though.
yeah, and it goes both
Yep.
ways. And it's always been that way with
Yep.
us where we almost know what the other one needs or
Feels.
he feels. I mean, I can't tell you how many times he'd come home from work and he'd go, "What's wrong?" And he just looked at me for 30 seconds, and he's like, "Well, this happened," and it's like he just knows. Like I don't even have to say anything, and he knows whether it's a sigh or a look on my face or whatever. It's just, and we've both been like
Yeah.
that with
From
each
early on.
other from early on in the relationship because it was based in a situation where we were both going through major turmoil on separate fronts.
Nothing compared to
Nothing
the
compared
last 7 years.
no, nothing compared to the last 7 years. But we built a trust with each
Yeah.
other, and then it formed into something more.
It was a ride or die.
So at what point, okay, you get married and you've been best friends, which is fantastic. At what point did Sean's uh, situations arise?
Yeah.
At what
The drinking,
about what
well,
year?
that was probably the second or third year in it started.
Yeah.
Because that was at
FPL,
FPL.
so it was 2013.
2013, his drinking started. And when he lost his job with FPL, it's just spiraled downward. And I actually was going with him because who wants to drink alone, right? So I would be drinking with him. But for me, I realized it was becoming a problem. And I just
But you
stopped.
saw early on.
I saw early on, like
Early.
within the first like 6 months, and I'm like, this is becoming an issue for me. So I need to cut the drinking out. But he did not cut the drinking out. And I think it calmed down a little bit, but then it fired back up probably 2 to 3 years later, I think. He hid it from me very well.
Yep.
I knew he was drinking. I didn't know the amount that he was drinking. He didn't hide the drinking from me, but he hid the amount that he was drinking from me. And he's not the kind of person who gets intoxicated and acts goofy or whatever. He It's very hard to tell with him. So it wasn't until the pancreatitis hit that it was like a slap in the face, like open your eyes, like this is not just from him drinking a glass of scotch a night or vodka or whatever. This is a major issue. And I remember that night after he got checked in, I came home and I tore the house apart and I found all of his stashes everywhere. And it was
Wow.
heartbreaking to me because I said to him, why couldn't you come to me? Because I tried to approach him on it and it was kind of like it brushed off, and I was heartbroken because thought, that I think that was one of the hardest things for me to digest was why didn't he come to me for help? Because he knows me. He knows I never would turn my back on him. And to be honest with you, a couple of weeks before he went into the hospital, I had gone to a divorce attorney because I was I was like, I can't do this to my daughter anymore. Like he would walk in the door and she would run up to him at 2 years old and he would just walk right past her and go for a drink, or go to wherever his stash was. And it just, to me, it got to the point when she stopped going to the door I was like, this has to stop. I can't do this to her. I'm not going to raise her like this, where she feels, sorry, babe, where she feels like her daddy doesn't care about her, where he's chosen alcohol over her. And this was like 2 weeks before he went into the hospital.
So is your daughter, both of your daughter,
Yeah.
belong to
Yeah.
both
She's
of you? Oh,
nine
okay.
now. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. She's nine. We had her a little late in life. But, so, but when he got sick, and I remember, and I've said this to you multiple times, I was at the hospital and I refused to leave. And the nurses said to me, "We can't believe you're still here." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, the other wives that their husbands came in for the same thing, drop them off, and you never see them again. And they
Mm.
either make it or they don't, and they're alone." And I looked at him and I was, I probably had a look of just
Shock.
a shock on my face. And I said, "But he's my friend. And I don't leave my friends behind. I might be mad at him. I might not like him a whole bunch right now, but he's my friend. And I don't leave my friends behind no matter what."
I don't think you said best friend, but maybe.
Well, I might have said, I probably said my best friend. And I don't leave my
Maybe
friends
not.
behind. I don't care what it takes to get him through this. He's my best friend. He's been with me for however long, because we were together for 3 or 4 years before we got married. I said, he's my friend. You don't desert your friends.
Julie, so where did this incredible conviction come from? As far as what you just articulated.
It's the grind factor.
The what?
Grind factor.
The grind factor. Meaning what?
Your whole life you grind.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised. My parents have always raised me. You don't leave people behind. You take care of people that you love. And even though I was mad at him, I still loved him. There was no doubt about that. It wasn't an easy decision that I was going to be forced to make. I just, he's always had my back, and he would have done the same for me. There was no question in my mind. No matter what I did, if that put me into a situation like that, he never would have turned his back on me. It never even crossed my mind, I guess. So for me, it wasn't like an aha moment. It was, he needs me, and I'm his friend. I'm his best friend. He can't do this without his best friend. So it wasn't like an aha moment. It was just,
It wasn't.
it was a no-brainer. It was not a decision for me, no matter how upset I was with him, that all went out the door, when he got sick like that.
I think what you just shared with everyone is such an important lesson because of the fact that, in today's world, so many people take the easy way out. The easy
Mhm.
way out is just, say, I'm done with this. This is just too much. And it's easier. There's the door. I'm walking through it. But for you to hang in there with Shaun in this moment speaks volumes. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I hope that people who are watching this can learn from this that, you know, the easy way out is not necessarily the best way out
No.
because what happens as a result of staying in the fire like you did, comes beautiful things later on. And so please continue with your story. I just wanted to point that out for everyone because that is
We're
such an
probably
incredible
jumping at the
lesson.
range.
Yeah. Well, once we got it, well, I don't know if you want to talk more about what happened during his when he had the pancreatitis. But
And that's the alcohol.
that's the alcohol coma.
Then we
Yeah.
transitioned nicely into
Yeah, then we
round
transitioned.
two.
But I think, it was apparent to me. Well, I guess maybe I did have an aha moment. And I think that's the one that I tell you about. That's like the worst vision I ever had. Was he went into the hospital, and 24 hours later, he was in ICU. And they were calling me in the morning to come because he was getting agitated. So I went in, and they said, "Whatever you do, don't let him out of bed." And I said, "Okay." I said, "He keeps trying to get up. We don't know what he's trying to do." I knew right away. He's trying to get out of this hospital so he can go get a drink somewhere. I knew right away.
Yep.
So when he saw me, he already had like 16 lines into his body, and he was already going through organ failure. I mean, it happened that fast. And it was horrible because I walked in and then the nurses left. And the first thing he tried to do was get out of bed to leave. And I don't want to hurt him because he's very weak at this point. Whoopsie. He's very weak at this point, and he got really belligerent with me. And he hit me and he spit on me and he said, I effing hate you. You know, it wasn't him. He wasn't there. It was like his eyes were just like, he wasn't there. I could tell, you know, and he had all these medications in his body. And he doesn't even remember it to this day. Like he doesn't remember doing that because he also hit and punched some nurses and they had to restrain him. And as they're trying to restrain him, they're trying to drag me out of the room. And I'm yelling, I'm like, you're hurting him. Like, please don't do this to him. And I knew that they had to for his own good, but it was heartbreaking. And I'm kind of getting escorted down the hall. And I'm like, wait a minute, you can't make me leave. You know, I had power of attorney. It doesn't matter if we're in the ICU. So I ran back and then I got intercepted by two male nurses and they not so gently dragged me down the hallway to the elevator and tried to escort me out the building. But I could hear him screaming, you're hurting me.
I can remember
And it
screaming
was
that.
just like,
I can remember. I
deafening.
can remember screaming that because there were two nurses
I
holding me down,
know,
and I think they were male nurses.
it was awful. Well, I'll tell you what,
I can remember that.
I ended up with a bloody lip and a ripped shirt by the time they got me to the door of the hospital. That's how hard I was fighting to get back to him. And they just finally they said, you have to leave. This is too upsetting for both of you. You know, we know you get your power of attorney. So, and then I wasn't even off the hospital grounds and I get a phone call and they said, someone wants to talk to you. And I thought, okay, Shaun, calm down. So I go back up to ICU and it's the chaplain. And by now I already know he's got the 5% chance. So, but you know, and he said the same thing that I already knew. He said, you know, that's not your husband. I said, oh, I know it's not. He would never treat me like that. You know, it was the alcoholism and the withdrawal that was getting him. And he kind of calmed me down a little bit, you know. And so then I did go home. And then the next day I'd called and they said he asked how his night was. They said it was good. I walked in and he's on life support.
No, they said it was good. He slept
Yeah,
well.
yeah. And I walked in and he's on life support. I mean, and I just dropped to my knees. I mean, it just was gut wrenching. And I think at that moment I realized like how much I loved him because I already had the 5% in my brain. But at least when I left him, he was feisty and he was alert and he was awake. And now he's got machines breathing for him.
I'm
And
intubated.
he's
The mask
intubated and
down my throat.
and it was the worst thing to walk into expecting just to see somebody laying in a hospital bed, not on life support like that. So I think for me, like that moment right there changed how I thought about things. And I said to Shaun, and this is a really weird concept, I said I had to take all my emotions out of it because I was afraid I was going to make an emotional decision when I needed to make rational decisions. So I had to take a lot of my emotions out, which came back to bite me in the butt in the end with me just dealing with the PTSD. But I took all that emotion out because I just kind of looked at him like something I needed to fix. Like he's a machine, I need to fix him. I can't be worried about, you know, I can't have my emotions involved. It has to be black and white, concrete decisions, like this fast, you know. And so I did. I took my emotion out of everything for 6 months. I mean, it's not like I was like cold to him or anything, but I couldn't allow my emotions to get the better of me. I had to just suppress that part because I would not have made the right decisions. Because if I had a second to think about it and second guess myself because of emotions, he wouldn't be here today.
So I'm just blown away. Absolutely blown away. I really am. Absolutely incredible. How did you, okay, all this stuff is going on. How did you, how were you able to uh, develop your own plan for this? I mean, were you getting counseling or this was all on your own?
No, sure. This was all. I mean, now his cousin is an ER doctor, and I did immediately call her because I needed terminology, I needed explanation, I needed to have answers, and I didn't want. And I told the doctors, please do not beat around the bush. I need direct. Don't worry about shocking me because I don't think you could shock me any more than I already am. I said, please don't sugarcoat anything. I want the facts and I want the truth, and I need to know looking for, what I'm not looking for. But Sherry, his cousin, was a source of comfort for me because she could break things down for me. She was probably one of the only people for months that gave me any hope that he was going to be okay, because it was just with, I mean, everything was just, he was just spiraling down. I mean,
But she's got such an uncanny capability
he
of
does.
taking very complex
Mhm.
technical nomenclature and make it for the common person to understand
Yeah,
and understand clearly.
yeah,
But she also wasn't give false optimism,
right.
but she knew when the optimism is, yeah, you can have some optimism here, right?
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
think, in the stories you told me anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, they would say to me every day, if he makes it through the night, it will be a miracle. If he makes it through the night, it will be a miracle. If he gets an infection, he gets a temperature, he's not going to make it. So of course, about 3 days in, he gets a staph infection. And there's like three kinds of staph infections. He got the worst possible kind. He's also allergic to penicillin, which is what they would use to cure the staph infection. So instead of being able to give him penicillin, they had to give him a combination of like 7 antibiotics that made him break out in these big, huge water blisters all over his body, and now his kidneys are shutting down. So now he's on dialysis. So now he's got these cords things coming out of his neck to do dialysis, because I had to make a decision at one point. These are the decisions that I had to face. I got a call from the doctor, and I had my family there and his family there. And the doctor said, we're afraid that part of his pancreas is deceased, and it's going to become toxic. So we need to do a CT scan, or was it MRI? It doesn't matter, CT scan or MRI, but we have to do it with contrast. If we do it with contrast, we're going to destroy the little bit of kidney function he has left, and he'll have to go on the donor list. If we don't do it and the pancreas is dying on us, we need to get in there and get it out, because that'll kill him
Within like 48 hours.
within like 48 hours. What's your decision? And I can remember sitting there at the table. I had the doctor on speaker, and I looked up, and everybody put their heads down. Nobody wanted to help me.
They were doing their grocery list.
They were doing their grocery list. And I mean, you take, what you want, bad or worse, So I said, go ahead, do it with contrast. Comes back, pancreas is not deceased, and now I'm kicking myself because I'm thinking I just killed my husband's kidneys, but they found a blood clot behind the pancreas that would have killed him. So it's still
That's what actually would have killed me within 48 hours.
within 24 to 48
Yeah.
hours. Well, you would have gone into toxic shock if the pancreas. So I would have gotten you anyway in
I
a
was
very
going
short period of
anyway.
time. But so they found that, but then when they found that, they also found that he had the staph infection. So now I've got a blood clot and a staph infection, and they've already told me if he even gets a fever, it's going to kill him. So now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, So I mean, and I'm telling these people, I mean, I'm trying to make him not a patient, and I'm trying to make him a human. This is my husband. He is a father. He's a son. He's a brother. He's an uncle. Like, he is not just patient 11. He is my husband. Like, he is my best friend. Like, we need to figure this out. We can't just write him off, because for a little bit there, they did write him off. And they had like nursing students in there, and I finally blew up because one of the nursing students almost gave him penicillin. And I like exploded, and the poor ICU unit heard me. And I said, I want the head nurse in here right now, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I want him to have the best care. He has 5% chance of survival. And that's something that he is not an experiment right now for your medical students. I said, I want the best nurses in here, period. And that's it. I said, or there's going to be a big issue. And they did. They brought in Paul and Oz. And I'll tell you what,
Friends with them.
yeah. And it's like, if you don't advocate for be an advocate for somebody, you don't advocate, you can't just go on what the doctors say. And that's, anytime I've talked to somebody that has somebody that's very ill, I try to tell them, like, if there's a heartbeat, there's a chance. That's all there is to it, because that's pretty much so all he was at that point, a machine was breathing for him. His kidneys had failed. His heart was starting to fail. His lungs were failing. His pancreas was dying. I mean, there was no part in his body. His liver is just in horrible shape. There was really no part of his body that should have recovered the way it did, and I just kept on them every day and reminded them, I'm here, and I spent a lot of time at the hospital. I mean, I would call ahead so they could move his lines and stuff so I could lay with them. But it always got worse. And then after we got through the staph infection, then he got 105 degrees.
Let me pause you right there, Julie. This is something that I speak a lot about is advocating for yourself and not
Hmm.
just taking the doctor's word.
Hmm.
And it doesn't, and this is a perfect example. This is not cancer. You are dealing with totally different situations, but it also relates to people going through cancer. You need to fight for yourself and don't just take whatever the doctor says,
Right,
as gospel,
right,
because, they have certain expertise, yes,
right.
but the people who know you the best are
Hmm.
you, and in this case, Shaun's wife.
Right.
I mean, who act like one. It's just absolutely incredible.
Hmm.
So this is a great lesson, and it crosses over into, a great, great example. So thank you for sharing that, and
Yeah,
thank you for
absolutely.
for speaking that.
Don't ever be afraid to speak your mind to a doctor, because even with when they finally brought him out of the coma, he panicked because he had that tube in his throat. And I remember I walked up to the room and I hear his brother yelling at him, "Don't touch that, blah, blah, blah." So I run in. I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "He's trying to rip his breathing tube out." And Sean looked at me and just went to point at it. He goes, "No, he wants to see what it looks like." I said, "You want to see what it looks like, don't you, babe?" Because he felt like it was a big mask on his face. He felt
Like Mad
like a
Max.
Mad Max mask. And I looked at his brother. I said, "He wants to see it." So I pulled my phone out. I took a picture of it. I took a picture of him and I showed it to him. And and you said, "Okay," but he was panicky and he had to,
Stop grabbing it.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
grab it
He
again.
wasn't trying to pull it out, but his brother wasn't understanding what he was trying to do. And then came into these breathing tests that he had to take and pass. And I remember I pulled the respiratory therapist aside and I said, "Is he going to pass this?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "I want him trached. I want him trached. I want him trached right now." And this was like a
Well, you
day.
asked, you go, what would you do?
Yeah, I said, yeah, I asked her, I said, "What would you do?" She said, "I would have him trached." I said, "I want him trached then." And um, so she got a hold of the person that would do that, and I kind of had a standoff with
No,
him.
no. You said I want the best.
I said, "I want the best surgeon." I said, and I want him in front of me now.
Hmm.
So they got him. He was not a happy camper. And I said to him, I said, "I want him trached." And I said, "Let's put him on your schedule." And he said, "Well, I need to look at my schedule." And I said, "Is that your cell phone in your pocket?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "I bet you have your schedule on that cell phone, don't you?" So why don't we pull that out and take a look at it? I made some enemies in the process. I was not besties with everybody. So he scheduled him
The next day,
the
it's
next
like,
morning. Well, no, it was
Let
the
me
sixth.
pause you right there, Julie. That is another great point is we are not there to please the medical staff.
Right,
yes.
We are there to live. We are there to
right.
survive. We are
Yes.
there to put our foot down and say, hey, you know, this is, and in your case, this is your husband. This is a human being and not just a number like he had mentioned earlier. And
Right,
we need to put our foot down and fight for ourselves.
right.
There's nobody going to
No.
fight harder for
Mm-mm.
us than us. And
Exactly.
so that's a great, great point.
Yeah.
In fact, let me say this much right now. There's so much more that I want to discuss with you because this is absolutely phenomenal. In fact, this is one of the best interviews that I think I've ever experienced. And so I want to thank you, first of all. But would you come back to, you know, go through, because there's so much more I know.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I know. Would
The
you
brain
be
trauma
willing to?
was even more. The brain trauma, I think, was
Yeah.
exponentially more challenging.
Yeah.
Okay, would you be willing to come back and shoot the next part?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So let's continue on a little bit more, and we're going to be closing out fairly soon.
Okay.
Uh, but I'm just mesmerized by this whole thing. And thank you, Shaun, for suggesting that we bring Julie on because it's just brought such an incredible perspective
Yeah.
that I was not ready for at all. I mean, and so it's just been absolutely fantastic. So continue on, Julie. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
So after I infuriated the surgeon, he did put on the schedule. It was actually the next morning at like 6 a.m.
That's right.
And so, of course, I was there. The doctor refused to meet with me because I embarrassed him in front of the ICU staff. Which, by the way, the respiratory therapist, who was a real tough cookie, after I kind of lit the doctor up, she said, "I'm so proud of you for sticking up for yourself and for Shaun." And I think I was shaking a little bit. I thought, "Oh my gosh!" But she said, "Good for you, because that's how you have to be." But so the next day they trached him, and he went. And I told him, I said, he's not going to pass his breathing test. He's not going to get better. Trach him and you will see a difference. You'll be able to see him smile, and you'll be able to hear him talk, and you'll be able to hear him giggle, and you'll get to know the guy that I know. Cause I remember telling the nurses, he is so funny. Wait till he wakes up. He is so funny. And,
We have it on camera.
We have it.
You said that.
yeah, yeah. So after everything was done, I went to see him, and he looked like a whole different man, like a whole different person. And I remember asking him, not to
Wait,
back up, but
no, you remember how you found out that I was doing good because I called you?
yeah, I know I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Um, to back up a little bit, I remember going to Shaun and saying, "Do you want me to have you trached?" And he said yes. I asked him 3 times because he had just woke up from a 16-day coma. So I wanted to make sure he realized what I was telling him. So anyway, I said goodbye. I wanted him to get some rest because they also changed his feeding tube. So he was in surgery for a while. So I said goodbye to him. I'm driving home and my phone rings, and it's from Shaun's phone. And I hear his voice. He's like, "Hey, baby." I'm like, "Wait a minute." I'm like, "Oh, you got to be." I hadn't heard his voice in 3 weeks. And Oz had shown him how to plug the trachea so he could talk, which he wasn't really supposed to
But
do.
I had sanitizer.
Yeah.
We had it.
So he made the rounds with the calls, and people were just. My parents had to pull over. They were driving. My dad had to pull over. My
Lost
dad lost it. I mean, my dad saw him. It's only the second time I've ever seen my father cry was when he saw him in a coma. And I mean, my dad had to pull the car over because he was just shaking, like he was just so happy, because even my parents said we thought we were going to lose him. And I said, I thought that sometimes too, but you know what? He was still in there.
Lean in and lean
He
on.
was still in there.
Lean in and lean on.
Yeah. And so after he got trached, um, he just exponentially got better. Now he had atrophied, and there was all that we had to deal with. He couldn't walk,
Couldn't get out of
couldn't
bed.
get out of bed. The first time he tried to write me a note, it was just a line of scribbles. And I remember him getting mad at me because I couldn't read it, and I kept it. I actually kept the piece of paper he wrote it on. And I said, "You can read this, babe?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can read that." And I'm like, "It doesn't say anything."
Well, I nodded because
Yeah, well, he nodded, yeah. But he just got exponentially better, and then it went into the joys of physical therapy. And when I took him home, he couldn't walk. I mean, I would have to strap him to my back. Thank God he only weighed about 140 pounds at that point. I think he was so skinny. I would just strap him to me and walk into the house, or walk to the bathroom, or to bathe him, or whatever needed to be done that
Then
day.
it progressed where you
And-
put me in a harness and we go.
And I
for a
put him in a
walk.
harness, and we'd go for a walk, and he was a trooper. He let me do what needed to be done. I mean, what guy wants to be strapped to his wife?
Always listen to you though. I could trust you,
did.
but I could trust you, right?
Yeah, he
There's
listened
one
to
person
everything.
that when I look back my whole life, it's not that the times haven't been rocky or I haven't been pissed off or mad at the world or definitely mad at you. I could always count on you being truthful, and I could always count on you and having my six.
Yeah.
And you've never ever shown differently.
No. Mm-mm.
So I could trust you
Yeah.
blindly on that.
He was a fantastic
I
patient.
did everything you did in the recovery, and then I doubled down on it when I
Yeah.
finally could drive it myself.
Yeah, when he got to the point, and that's what was so like inspiring to me. Once he got to the point where he had the strength to walk and go through his physical therapy, without just being so exhausted, he'd almost just fall asleep on the floor. He started doing 2-a-days with his therapy because he just wanted to get better for us. Because at that point, I think he just felt so guilty, and he felt like he'd lost so much time with us. All he wanted to do was get better, and he treated it like a full-time job. And it was, I mean, it was difficult. There were tears from both of us, getting him through physical therapy, getting him through speech therapy. I mean, he had to learn how to write and read and swallow and eat and, you know, maneuver himself. I mean, everything. It was just like having a small child again, but having the faculties of a
But that's what,
50-year
that
old
was from the
man.
brain trauma.
No, this was both times. I mean, because you couldn't really move around.
Oh, you're right. I did it even with the alcohol. I did have to learn how to write
Yeah.
again, though. You're right.
Yeah, you
I
did.
forgot that.
Yeah, and it was because
Yeah.
of the coma, and they didn't know what we were gonna have when he woke up. When I remember the day that they woke him up from his coma, it took me 2 hours to get ready because I wanted to look perfect when he woke up in case, you know, I was expecting either he's gonna wake up and be okay or he's gonna wake up and not be okay.
And not remember
And
anything.
not remember anything, not remember who I am or even have his faculties. But when he woke up, the first thing he did was he stared past me and he pointed at the wall and he got panicky. He recognized the date. And I was like, oh, thank God, because I realized he had enough sense in his head to say, wait a minute, I came in here on the 1st, it's the 17th now.
Yeah.
What is going on? I remember saying to him, you're fine. You just got really sick. You're okay. You can walk. You're not paralyzed. You're going to be okay.
Remember it.
But I remember that feeling of relief knowing that he was going to be okay. And I think, yeah, and I think that was the first time, even though you were still on dialysis and everything else, was the first time I felt like we got this, babe.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to close out this session. I mean, we could go on, I know, for hours.
Yeah, we could.
I have one last thing that I'd like to ask Shaun. At what point did you decide to change your life and turn it around? Because it sounds like it was as a result of coming out and being thankful that you were alive. Was that the point where you decided to change your life and go forward instead of,
It was.
stay in the same situation?
I've never had anyone ask me that question, and that
Great question.
and I hate when people say it's a great question, but that was a great question. Um, Immediately when I woke up and did the math and realized I was out for 16 days and I was able to digest within probably 30 minutes to an hour after coming out of the coma, I realized I had to change immediately. Mark, when we spoke previously, I told you I was going to quit every Monday because I knew I had a problem. And
Mhm.
every Monday over 2 years, I had a rational reason, right? Pure rationale that I could say, next Monday will be better. And next Monday, I mean it. And every Monday would come and I would have I'm sorry, I've just got a call. I would have an excuse on why it was rationally better to wait till next Monday. So I'm going to enjoy this next week. So what would happen? It gave me liberty to increase my drinking a little more. And I feel guilty for that because I'm quitting Monday. Monday never came and it was a wake up call I needed. And when I realized what God had seen me through and what this wonderful human being sitting next to me saw me through, I was going to absolutely be a better man every day, or at least try to be. And I was never going back. I'll tell you, the best and easiest decisions I made in my life was leaning into my faith and quitting drinking. Because I realized what I almost lost for something that wasn't that good.
Wow. I, I don't have anything else to say to that. That is absolutely absolutely beautiful. And thank you for sharing that from the heart. And thank you to both of you for uh, just an experience that I've never experienced before. And I really, really look forward to shooting a part two because I know there's more great, great things to come. And I want to thank each and every one of you out there for joining us here at the Be Your Own Hero. This is a totally different experience, and I hope each and every one of you got a lot out of it like I did. I learn from every single interview that I do, but this was just like over the top. And so it was absolutely beautiful. And it comes as per Sean's point, he decided to change his life for the better, and he's kept up with his end of the bargain. And that's an incredible thing and continued success. And we look forward to next week to showcasing you for another part of the interview. And it gets down to my bottom line. We only have one life to live. Let's make the most of it because it's not worth wasting on drinking or all these other things that this world has to offer. We have a life. Let's live it. Let's live it to the very, very fullest. And let's make the most out of each and every day, each and every hour, each and every minute,
Absolutely.
and each and every second. Thank you so much for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero. Make sure you like, subscribe, make a comment in the comment section, and we will see you next week. And have a fantastic week. We will see you next week on To Be Your Own Hero. Thank you very much.